We're I think it's live.
Yep, we're live. Welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. You have your host, Talisa Stubbs. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Before we introduce my co-host and our special guest, I'm about to get on to you guys. Subscribe. Click that button, go to YouTube, go to the Apple Podcast, and so y'all know that we're adding value. You know that you like the content that we're putting out. So go ahead and click that button, and then now introduce my lovely co-host, Deborah Douglas. How you doing, girlfriend?
I am doing good. This is back to school week, and I am so thrilled. My kids don't start back till Thursday, but I will tell you, as soon as everybody's out of this house, I'm going to be blasting trap music and I'm going to be dancing like crazy because everybody is at this house and I can get some silence and I can really get some work done. So, yes, I'm having a great week.
Girl, Lord, please take these kids. Take these kids. Have you heard of it? Never mind, I'm not gonna say it. Anyways, all right. Our special guest, you guys, we have one of my friends, super knowledgeable right here in the Richmond area. She's a real estate investor. She's a nurse. She has a army background. She's amazing. She helps me with my social media. But anyways, Katie Newman, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. But thank you so much for coming on the show, girl.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we could all meet and this time was perfect to come on. So super short, 20-second intro. I am originally from Alexandria, Virginia and moved to Richmond by 4, 5, 6 years ago, lived there for a while, deployed overseas, and then kind of got the bug to start investing in real estate and figuring out a way out of my nursing career and kind of out of the W-2 world. And then kind of came back, and now I've just kind of meandered my way into real estate investing, into content creation, into digital marketing, and kind of left the best. And now I'm just kind of full-time content, full-time kind of digital marketing / backside business stuff with real estate investors. So that's kind of like a really down and dirty kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Deborah, it's a lot to unpack. So I don't know if you want me to go first or you want.
Yes, you go first. You go first.
Okay. So, all right, let's back up. So you were deployed.
Correct.
Okay. So did you join right after high school or tell us about how you even got to that point?
Yeah. So, it's a really long story, but in high school, I was in ROTC in high school. My family's military and I knew I always kind of wanted to do it. Got into Naval Academy out of high school and then got a medical waiver denied, so I couldn't go. And then I was like, all right, cool. Well, I want to do healthcare. I figured it out in college. I drove ambulances and fire trucks. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't want to go to med school. So what's my next best option? Went to nursing school because I wanted to be a flight nurse in the Navy. And so they said, because you already had your first degree, that you have to go to nursing school first and then you can join. So long story short, probably I didn't join until I was about 26 or 27. So I had been a nurse already for 3 or 4 years. Got in, and then 2 years after that, I was deployed overseas to Afghanistan for a year. So I came back kind of 4 months after COVID hit. And so I kind of had no idea what was happening in the world over here because I was over there. It was kind of 3 or 4 months behind. And so when I came back, I was like, oh, I need to figure something else out besides this nursing career, because I had done it for, I've been a nurse for almost 9 years. And I was like, there's got to be a better way for me to just have one source of income. And so that's kind of how I was over there, just literally working out and reading. And then I just kind of started to dive into, financial stability and financial independence and then real estate. And I was like, well, why don't I use my VA loan when I came home? And so then I came home, bought my first property with a VA loan, which I'm renting out right now as an MTR. And then I still do it. I still am in the reserves. I've been in about 7 years or so in the Navy as a ER trauma nurse. But I've just been able to transition out of bedside full-time end of December. So about 7 or so months right now. But that's kind of how I went from military into nursing stuff and then kind of slowly transitioning out of that civilian side.
Wow. Well, one, thank you so much for your service.
Right.
We literally are on the battle lines helping so many different people. So we appreciate your service.
Absolutely.
2, talk to us about how you utilize that VA loan, because I'm always telling my clients about that. and you were able to buy that property with zero down because it was a VA loan, right?
Yeah, correct. So basically, and I love talking about the VA loan too, because I think it's really important for those out there that one, can use the VA loan and haven't used it yet. And two, for agents and people to know a lot of information to help their VA loan clients, because I think there's a lot of agents out there that don't know the, like, you can use your VA loan twice, you have different entitlements, like all sorts of stuff. And so when I came back, my condo, I got 285 with 5K seller credit. And so I only had to pay $6,000, which was basically, I forget what it was called. Like there's a amount that you have to pay for the VA loan, like a service fee, basically.
Right,
So I basically
right.
had to pay almost, $6,000 for a $285,000 property. And so I, in theory, still have, if I were to live in a high cost area right now, so if I were to live in DC again, I still have up to almost $700,000 of entitlement left, meaning I could use my VA loan again, up to $700,000, because I didn't use my entire entitlement. So that's something really, really good to know, because I think a lot of vets think that
Yeah.
they can only use it once.
Yeah.
And so if I were to live in a lower cost place like Georgia or a smaller city, I would have about $370,000 of entitlement left on my VA loan. So I could use it
Wow.
again, and you can use it up to like a multi-unit, 4-unit property. You could house hack it, same thing. So I think there's so much utilization with the VA loan that people don't really know and talk about as much, that it's really, really great to kind of educate your military clients on, as well as kind of like nudge them in the right direction of like, use your VA loan. You could get up to a 4-unit with zero down and house hack it, and then just do it again in a year or two,
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. And so how long did you live in that house before now you mentioned that it's now a rental?
So I was in it just over 2 years. So just over 2 years. So I mean, my goal isn't to ever sell it, really, because it's right by my family's, up in Northern Virginia. It's like a 2.37%. So like I'm probably never getting rid of it. Great location. But it, I guess you only need to live in a like, you just, for a regular home, home loan down, you only need a year, right? Like I could, in theory, have lived for a year and just done it again. DC was just so expensive. Like it was really hard for me to find another property that I was like, okay, spending a ton of money on. Because it was at the time I was like, okay, let me start looking after a year, right? And then I looked, and like properties were going 50, 60 over. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm not going to do that. It just didn't make sense. But I lived in there for about 2 years. And then I moved out this past December and rented it to some travel physical therapists.
Nice.
So they're living there for the next till December. So it's going to be rented for 9 months.
Wow. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge.
And was your intent when you first bought it to do this type of like house hacking, live in there, and then eventually rent it out? Wow.
Yeah, my ultimate goal is to be like, this, I'm not going to live here forever. Like I know this would be a really solid rental. It's really close to my family, but also like it's 15 minutes south of DC. And so like, it's not a bad investment. And then in theory, like I'm cash flowing probably about $650 a month off of it. And so in theory, it's rented for what, 9 or 10 months. And like I can get my whole investment back. And then now if I can go back there and live there a few weeks and then rent it out again. So that's kind of like my back and forth plan with it right now.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, so I know that a lot of people are looking to do the midterm rentals. I know that because you're in healthcare, I don't know if that had a play in how you were able to get therapists to rent out your place. But for somebody who doesn't have healthcare connections, how can they go about finding these 9-month contracts from healthcare professionals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great question. So as a nurse, I've been in around healthcare for a really long time. Furnished Finders is the most popular, like #1 website for people to have furnished rentals on. At least that's what is back in the day. I'll tell you, Furnished Finders now literally looks the same as it was like 7 years ago. And so it's very, very, it's not very like a great user-friendly base, but you can find a lot of healthcare professionals looking on that website. But Airbnb and Vrbo are also very common for them as well, because on Airbnb and Vrbo, like you can set 30-day plus stays. And so I think it just depends on the market you live in. Furnished Finder, I would always post on because that's where a lot of healthcare workers initially came from. Second, I would also look at Facebook groups in the market you're investing in for travel professionals. So it doesn't necessarily have to be nurses or therapists, or it can be any travel, group or travel healthcare or something. You can search local Facebook groups and just say like travel nurse your city, or like travel healthcare professionals city. And you can literally, this is what I did with my property. I put it on Furnish Finder and I put it in my Facebook group, and that was it. Wow. I didn't go through Airbnb. I didn't go through Vrbo because I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I just want to keep it as simple as possible. And so I just kind of just used, and I knew the DC market was pretty busy. There's going to be a lot of people there, but I think it depends on your market. Like I have a lot of friends that invest in the Midwest with MTRs, and Facebook groups are their number one play. And I have other people that invest in Midwest markets, and Airbnb is their number one play. So I would say just make sure that you use, Facebook Marketplace groups, Furnish Finder, and Airbnb. I would say those are your top three if you're looking for healthcare professionals. But you can even list your place on Furnish Finder, and you'll get pings from insurance agents or people that need like where they put you in a home if your house is on fire or flooded or something like that. And so you can always just kind of do it that way. And so that's kind of how I found my property. And that's how a lot of my friends find their midterm rentals. And it just happened to be, I got really lucky. I think my physical therapist couple, they have a 6-month contract, was their first contract. And then they texted me a month ago and they're like, hey, we're extending 3 months. Like, can we stay? And I was like, absolutely. Wow. So I think I just kind of got lucky in the first time. But at the same time, I think typically, I will say with the healthcare field, I would say it's probably more common for you to get extended than to not get extended. And so 3 months is minimum. I would say usually average like 6 month, 9 month, depending on like your location and how you're priced and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Wow. That's awesome.
Wow. That is so good. I hope that y'all were listening to that.
Yeah.
Those were some
knowledge bombs.
Right. Bombs dropped right there. Okay. So Katie, all right. So I know that you are a nurse, and you've got your rental properties, but you also started to dabble into social media marketing and branding. You had made a connection with a lady, and now you are capitalizing off of that venture as well. Can you kind of take us into that? Like, how did you even get introduced to that? And where has that led you to now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so goofy to think about like what I'm doing compared to what I was doing like 7 months ago. But I think this story is really, and this is why I'm so passionate about like social media and just networking in general, because like you and we met at a workout that I put together a couple months ago in Richmond, right? And we were just like talking and chatting, and I was like, oh, like we get along. But I will say I didn't start my Instagram for real estate until last July. So about a year ago. I had an Instagram for a while with friends and like for fitness coaching and different stuff like that. And so I started following real estate friends on there, randomly started DMing people, just like making like actual connections, right? Like not just, hey, will you sell me this? Will you mentor me this kind of thing? And so I went to a networking meetup with just like a group of investors, met a friend there, and then who was working on her social media, was pretty like growing a pretty good following, really big in investing. And so we just kind of hit it off, became friends, and I basically kind of started doing stuff for her for free. Like, the ultimate, they're like, give value, do something for free, and then see what happens. And it was never my intent to like, honestly, probably be doing what I'm doing right now, but it just kind of grew from me helping her edit course content, edit captions, edit like social media stuff in general. And to now, basically, we've grown. I quit my job end of December. She kind of like was like, work for me. And I was like, I don't know, like, this is kind of weird. Like, how can I leave a W-2 that's so stable, right? And like, I know what I'm doing and all that sorts of stuff, to being like, oh, cool, like I'm going to go do content now. Like that was it was a very strange jump for me, but at the same time, it's been very successful. We still are really good friends. We really get along. And so I kind of work for her full time in the kind of like head of content, digital marketing kind of realm. And I've met a few other people from networking events that I've started to do some freelancing social media work for, or, back end email funnels and sales and kind of brand stuff with them. And so, who would have thought 8 months ago I was like in a job I hated as a bedside nurse, and now I'm just kind of helping real estate investors, grow their business through social media and branding. So that's kind of how I've fallen into it and start kind of have, I guess, fallen into a little pocket of stuff I like to do. So yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. I mean, on
Yeah.
so many different levels, because I will be honest, like Talisa and I, we met through like Instagram and social media, stuff like that. So that branding does work. I mean, it really,
100%.
really does. So what advice can you give to someone that is trying to grow their brand as a real estate investor? What advice can you share? Like what to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest piece of advice, and this is, I think that like I do it not as a job, do it as something that's fun. I think there's a really big like misconception that like you have to be perfect when you show up online or when you show up on camera. But for me as like an investor, what I'm attracted to online is someone that's very intentional, someone that's very like, you know, they're smart, they're creative, they're funny, they're just different styles like that. And so I think people should dive into their personalities if they're trying to really grow their brand. I think it also depends too. Like if you want to be an agent, if you want to be a lender, like you have to think about it as like your social media is your business card. But I think at the same time, like how are you going to differentiate yourself, you know? And so I think the biggest thing is just leaning into you as a person. And number one, like how can you provide value without hoping that more followers equals more success, because that's not how it works. You know what I mean? I've met people that have really big followings that are just duds to talk to. You know what I mean? I'm just being totally honest. And I've seen other people that grow their brand, and you go on their page and they have 1,000, 2,000 followers, but you know they have a 6-figure, 7-figure business. And so I think number two, don't equate your followers with success. I think for me, it's really like, how can you provide value to who you're trying to, you know, help? So if you're a realtor or if you're a lender in Richmond, Virginia, you know, you're going to want to make sure that you talk about places to go in Richmond, like how the housing market is in Richmond, how, you know, someone that's 25 can afford an apartment in Richmond versus a 20 or 45-year-old can afford something in Richmond. So just kind of thinking of between the pain points and of the clients that you're working with, along with like providing value and not asking anything back except for just like genuine connection. Because I honestly think I would rather connect with someone. And I think that, you know, you are a business when you are on social media and you are a brand. But I think at the same time, like I would much rather do business with someone that I connect with and that I think is genuine versus going online. I'm like, ooh, like they're a little skeezy, you know?
Right.
That's what.
So just be yourself and be genuine, and you're going to attract what you give off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Katie has taught me some very valuable lessons. Anytime I have like a social media like situation, I'm like, Katie, what should I do? What should I say? You know, how should I frame it? But I mean, like Katie said, it's all about first of all, finding about who you are. Like if you don't know who you are, then you're going to continue to portray somebody that is not you, and people can't really relate to somebody who's pretending, right? And I mean, and this is something that I had to learn too. And also, when you're posting on social media, a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, we always want to post about the business. So, I mean, I have a lot of real investor friends, and you know, some of the guys on TikTok, they're posting their flips, not really putting a whole lot of like text or whatever, and they're not really getting like any likes. It's like, yeah, you're doing the work, but people can't see your personality. And so that's one thing that Katie taught me was let people see your family, let people see you doing stuff on the weekends, let them see that you're a human being, you know, that way that they can see that they have something to relate to.
Yeah, very true. And even talk about some of the failures. Like, I think that's something to be truly transparent of, like, I just lost 5,000 on this deal because I thought it was going to work, and it did not work. You know, I mean, just beyond, or I'm a mother of all these kids, and sometimes I just can't wait for them to go to school because I just want to play some trap music in my house. You know?
Oh my goodness, that's all we want. We just want to play trap music and twerk.
Invite me over. I will join. Invite me over. I will come anytime.
We're not asking for a lot.
We're not. You know.
But yeah, I mean, I think I think that's where it comes to in personality wise, in a sense of like, you always want to have, if someone's going to come to your page, you want to be like, am I the expert of what? And so if they come to your page and they see a picture of a dog one day, ice cream one day, sneakers one day, a house one day, then yeah, you're not going to really grow your brand because people aren't going to know what they're coming to your page for.
Yeah.
But if you talk about your flips, your fails, how you did different deals 80% of the time, and then you have a family post there once a week, twice a week, a mother that's got busy children is going to come and feel seen when she comes to your page.
Yeah.
And then when you can go on your stories, that's when you create personality. Like sales are in the DMs, conversations are in the DMs, partnerships are in the DMs. And so that's where you can show your face. You can say, hey, like I just lost $5,000 at this property. Like, oh my God, look at these roaches in this like wholesale house. Or, you know, look at this, like my kids left my house a mess. So like that's where you can kind of play with personality when it comes to stories and stuff like that, and just make sure that like you're just being yourself on your page and you're just actually putting out valuable information, and not just like, if you post a picture of a window and you don't post anything else, like don't expect to get 2,000 likes on it. You know what I mean? So provide value, but also just create personality. That's what I love when I go onto social media. And like the first word of social media is social. So, you know, 90% of the people on there are just creeping and scrolling and liking, you know what I mean? But if you are the 1% or the 10% that are going to interact with people in your, you know, your city or in your state or in like networking events, then you're going to be the one that stands out, and you're going to be the one that someone's going to think about of like, oh, I know that she's an agent in Richmond and uses private money. I'm going to look for her. Like that's exactly kind of how someone's thinking. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind when you're trying to create a brand online, in a sense of, you know, combine your business with your personality.
I love that. So tell us, Katie, you've shared, you know, starting with nursing and then now transition from house hacking. Now you have a rental, midterm rental, and then now you're doing social media. So what's next for Katie? Are we going to acquire more properties? Like what's next for Katie?
That's the goal. So I have a long-term in Chattanooga, Tennessee that I have a renter in right now. And then I have my MTR till the end of this year. And so I think my biggest struggle is figuring out like, what is my next move? Because I'm in such a transition phase of like, I'm doing a completely different career and I'm doing so much different stuff. And I still really want to invest in real estate. Long-term, I would love to get into the residential assisted living space. And so kind of go down that route of learning how to, you know, find a residential assisted facility, work with an operator, and just kind of utilize that and combine my healthcare experience with actually like real estate. And I'd also love to get, you know, dive into private money and do, you know, I'd love to do BRRRRs. I would love to do kind of like the real estate stuff. I just, you know, I need to find time. And then two, just kind of find, you know, I need to network more, and I need to be really a lot more forward with my real estate goals. But I think I've just been digging into my content social media career change right now, and you know, it's not a W-2, right? And so transitioning again through, you know, not a W-2 to a W-2, like what do I do with funding, what do I do with that stuff? So I think that's where I'm at with my real estate adventure right now, of like, okay, cool, like how can I scale and how can I create more cash flow, not using conventional options, along with kind of building this career. So just that's kind of where I'm at right now in it.
I love it.
Katie, and I was going to say, we're going to have to chat because I met somebody at a conference who does assisted living, and all that they do is connect with operators, and mainly they're just looking for the healthcare professionals to like complete the whole, you know, thing. And so I'm going to have to connect you two. I think that you guys might be able to do some business together. So although you might not be at all the networking events, stuff like this, you being on podcast, it's also great ways for you to network. So
yeah, absolutely. No, yeah. Send me that connect for sure.
Absolutely. So, and then Katie, one more thing. You talked about you wanting to raise more private money, and I know that you know I'm having a workshop here in Richmond at the beginning of September, and so hopefully you'll be there, and then you can kind of grace people with your presence and share some of your knowledge about branding your network. So
absolutely.
What was that?
I was like, is it going to be on Zoom or a webinar so that people that are not in Richmond that can?
Yes. So on September the 2nd, that's going to be the in-person workshop in Richmond. But the following day, September the 3rd, that's when we're going to do the exact same workshop. We're not going to skip a beat. We're going to do it virtually for everybody who couldn't attend the in person
Oh,
because I can only take 12 spots for the in person. So
Nice.
love it. Oh yes, no, for sure. I'm gonna be back from my Navy training by then, so definitely let me know. I can swing by for sure.
Awesome. Well, Katie, this has been amazing. You are just like
Yes,
such
so
a wealth
fun.
of knowledge, girl.
Anytime I try. It's a learning process, right? It's a learning process, but I think I've found kind of a niche in a sense, or like I can do nursing, but I also translate it into helping real estate investors and business people kind of, grow their business, which I've been finding fulfilling. And so thanks so much for letting me come on and like share my story with you guys and talk to your audience because I love it.
You're welcome. And I just want
how can we find you? Like, how can we follow you? Tell us how we can find you.
My Instagram handle is midshift_investor. So that's where you can find me.
Okay, midshift_investor. Okay, awesome. And then one
DM
more
me.
thing. Oh, go ahead.
As I said, DM me. You can message me whatever questions you have. If you need help, just want to say hi.
Yeah.
I'm always there.
Or if you want to partner, or
whatever. Yeah, if you want to partner too, yeah.
Are you accepting new clients? Are you accepting new clients for social media?
We can always chat. I'm always open to chat.
There we go.
Okay, and one more last thing I just want to highlight before we go, because Katie, you dropped a lot of gems, so I'm just going to highlight this one last thing. When it comes to you guys' social media, honestly, adding value on your post is probably like the number one thing. And I can say that I have not always done that. I even asked a few people in my circle just to say, hey, when you look at my social media, am I adding value? And they say, I always see that you're doing good and you're always winning, but I don't necessarily see all the time that it's like information that I can take and use in that moment. And so sometimes we have to get away from it being about us and focus on what is the information that our audience needs to hear so that we are adding value. Because if we're adding value, then more will come, and then the monetary things will also come as well. Yeah. So I just want to highlight that one last thing. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was so good seeing you.
Yes, it was so good seeing you too. You guys, make sure you like, subscribe, and we will see you next week. Bye.
All right. See ya.